Okay, another video on Linux, and in this video we'll talk about user management and user accounts management and related system files in Linux. For this demo I'll be using Ubuntu, which is running on my computer as a virtual machine, and we'll also talk about shadow password system. So the user accounts in Linux are stored in a text file called passwd, and this file in modern distributions is supported by another file called shadow, and this is the location of these two files, root and then etc, and then this is the name of the file, and these both these files are text file. So these are single file databases that store information about users including their passwords. It is very similar to a Windows computer having a host file that is used instead of DNS sometimes. Both these are text files. You can edit them, you can open them, but we don't normally edit them directly. Traditionally, the older versions used to have all user information in this file, password passwd, that included the password of the user in encrypted format. But this file is accessible to all users. What it means that there was a security risk, although the password was stored in encrypted format, but it was accessible to all users, and there are people who can actually misuse that information. So in modern distributions they have increased security by storing the password in this file, which is only accessible to root user, or to root, which is equivalent to an administrator in Windows. So this is the format, and in this database the fields are separated by colon. So you can see several colons here. So the first field is reserved for username, and then there is a colon, and the second field is reserved for password. And if you open this file, you'll see that it only has X here. What it means that the user has a password, and the password is stored in this file instead of this file. The next field is user ID, UID, and the field after is GID, group ID. The next field is user information, phone number, the department they're working, and things like that. The next field is home directory of the user, and the field after is what shell they're using. The shadow file contains the username and the encrypted password, and we should be able to see this password when we log on to the system, when we open this file. Now this next field, time since the password was changed, and it's a funny thing, it calculates number of days since January 1, 1970. This is the minimum password lifetime, so how long before you can change the password, and the maximum password lifetime, and after this time you have to change the password. The warning days are the number of days before a user starts getting a warning that their password is about to expire, inactive days, and the account disable. Now we just don't want to touch this. These are the group accounts that are stored in the same folder, etc group and G shadow. So let's see all these files in the file system. I'll minimize this, and I'm trying to invoke the terminal window, and there are several ways to do it. So what I'll do, and of course you cannot see it, I'll press Ctrl Alt and T button on my keyboard, and the terminal window has been activated. I can now communicate with the kernel. This is shell, of course, and first of all I'll run a command pwd, print working directory, and as you can see this is the home directory of the user Angel, and if I say ls, these are the files and the folders that belong to this user. All the user's data, the Angel's data, is kept in here. These are the folders, blue in color, and this is a file. So music is a folder, templates is a folder, videos is a folder, and this is, so each user in Linux has a home directory, or should have a home directory. But right now what I want to do, I want to change this directory, and I want to go to root. So I'll say cd change directory and /, and if I run the same command again, pwd, I'm in root ls. Now this root is equivalent to C drive in Windows, or now Linux is a single tree architecture as compared to Windows, which is a multiple tree architecture. So they can be a C drive, they can be a D drive, they can be a E drive. So each drive that you put in your computer will be represented by a letter, an alphabet. So and each of those drives will have their subfolders and subdirectories, and files will be stored in them. In the Linux, everything is stored under a single tree structure. So if I wanted to use a thumb drive, I'll mount this drive in one of the folders, and the data from that drive would be visible under a folder rather than a drive letter. So anyway, so this is the file that we're talking about, cd etc ls, and should have a password file, passwd, and then should also have a shadow file. Let me find out where that is. There it is. Okay, we can open these two files, and you can use vi editor. I'm using gedit. This is a different editor that I like, and passwd, and this is the file that holds all user information that we're talking about. So these are system users. All of them are system users, and if you want to look at if you go to the very bottom of the file, this is the user Angel. Now, as I said, this is the username, which is separated by a colon, and X means nothing. X means the password is actually stored in a shadow file. Now this is the user ID, this is the group ID, and if you notice, it is starting with 1000. Both the user ID and the group ID are 1000. It means that that the next user will take 1001, and the one after will take 1002. And you'll notice in most distributions these numbers are quite high, because the numbers below 1000 or sometimes 500 are reserved for system users. Okay, the next field is just the user information, and you can see several commas, and this will literally take any text value. So you can say Angel manager and their email address, and in this example we don't have much information stored, but you can do that. Now the next is the home directory of the user, home and Angel. When the Angel logs in, he's logged into this folder, he's taken into this folder, and this is the default application that the user will use to communicate with the operating system. Okay, now you'll notice the shell is false for some of the accounts, system accounts. It means that the user, so these will never log in. Okay, and if you want to disable an account, you can also say, for example, you want to disable Angel's account. What you can simply do, you can among many other things, you can also say false. So the user Angel would not be able to log in. Let me also show you the other file, which is the shadow file. Now, because this for this file to open, you need to be a root user. So I'll type in sudo, and then I'll use gedit. You can use vi editor or any other editor that you have, and the name of the file is shadow. Okay, so press enter, and normally it would ask you the credentials for the root user, but since I've gone into it already, it did not do that for me. So these are the contents of this file called shadow, and as you can see, the format is very similar. These are the system accounts that we don't need to worry about. The name of the account and the fields are separated by colons. If you go towards the bottom, the user Angel that we are using, and this is the field separator colon, and as you can see, this is the password. This is the encrypted password. This is not the actual password. This is the encrypted password. So So password may be 4 or 5 characters long, but it has been encrypted. And what I'll do, I'll copy this entry from this file and this the corresponding entry from the password file onto a clipboard, and then we'll discuss what all these things mean. Okay, so what I've done here, I've taken the entries for user Angel from both password file and shadow file, and this is the entry, this is the data in the password file for user Angel, and the same corresponding data for the user Angel in shadow file. So as we know, the first field represents the name of the user, which is separated by a colon, and the next field says X here. X simply means that user has a password, but then the password is stored in shadow file. That's what it says. Okay. Now the next entry is user ID, UID. The one after is group ID, GID, and then the user details, username, and maybe the phone number and email address or whatever you want to store. And the next entry is, and the next field is the home directory for the user Angel, and the last field is what shell user Angel has to use. So this is the default shell of user Angel. The corresponding entry for user Angel in shadow file, and if you, this is the username as again, and if you look at the next entry, you see an entry that is composed of a number of characters and numbers. This is the encrypted password for user Angel. This is not a password, this is the encrypted form of the password. The password is actually 5 characters long in this case, the because I know I created the password for this user, but the encryption has been applied to the password, and that's how it is represented in the shadow file. To make things simple, I'll just remove this entry, the password entry for user Angel, so we can see rest of the fields in the shadow file for user Angel. Okay, so that's better. So first entry was the name of the user, and on most distributions username can be up to 8 characters long. It is case sensitive, but usually traditionally the username is lower cases, and it is an exact match to the username in password file. The second field, as we know, is the password field. It is stored in an encrypted form, and again on most distributions it can be a maximum of 13 characters. A blank entry such as this one, so at the moment there's nothing in the password field, it means that user does not need a password to log on. Okay, it's not a good idea in terms of security, but that's what it means. An entry with a star like this, asterisk or a star, it means that the account has been disabled. The field after that is the number of days since January 1, 1970, since the password was last changed, if that makes sense. It is really confusing, but that's all what it is. It's funny that it calculates the number of days since January 1, 1970, since the password was last changed. The field after, it means the number of days before a password can be changed. Means if you change a password today, how long you have to wait before you can change it again. An entry of 0, as in this case, means that user can change password anytime. If there was an entry of 7, for example, it means that once you created a password, you'll have to wait 7 days before you can change it again. So it's usually 0. Now 99,999. This is the maximum password lifetime, the number of days after which password must be changed. This is how long a password can stay same before you need to change it. Now 99,999, if you this is number of days, so if you divide that number by 365, it comes to 274 years or something. So in this example, it means that user literally does not have to change their password. The next entry is the number of warning days. Okay, so I'll change this, for example, to 90 days. Okay, so the maximum password lifetime is 90 days. User can have a password for 90 days, and after 90 days they have to change the password. So the next entry would then mean that the user will start getting warnings 7 days prior to the end of this 90-day period. Your password is about to expire and you have to change the password. So this is the number of warning days before a user before user will start getting warnings. The field after is inactive days, how long a password expires, the account is made inactive. The last field is account disabled, the date at which the account will be disabled. So you can disable an account on a predetermined date. So that's how it is. In next video we'll actually learn how to create a user account and we'll use some tools rather than playing with the password file and shadow file.